Today we're going to be talking about functions involving multiple angles. So the functions that involve multiple angles typically have the form sine of kx, cosine of kx, tangent of kx, and so forth. So to solve these equations, you first solve for k of x, kx, then divide the result by k. So let's look at some examples. This one says find all the solutions to the equation. So first you're going to add plus 1 to the other side, leaving you with cosine of 3t equals 1, and then divide by 2, since you're still trying to solve for cosine of 3t. Then you have cosine of 3t equals 1/2. To solve from here, you can think of 3t as being x, so you'll substitute x for 3t and solve for cosine of x equals 1/2. And cosine of x equals 1/2 at x equals pi over 3 and x equals 5 pi over 3. But it asks for all the solutions of the equation, so that means it needs to be in general form. So let's add 2 pi n to the ends of both of them. So now we're going to take 3t and plug it back in for x on both solutions. Then we have 3t equals pi over 3 plus 2 pi n. So now we're going to solve for t. So we'll divide by 3 on both sides, and that gives us t equals 1/3 times pi over 3 plus 2 pi n, since dividing is the same as multiplying by a fraction. So then you'll distribute the 1/3 to both sides, and you have t equals pi over 9 plus 2 pi n over 3. So we'll do the same thing for 5 pi over 3, and we'll have 3t equals 5 pi over 3 plus 2n. Then you'll divide by 3, which will give you t equals 1/3 times 5 pi over 3 plus 2 pi n. Then you'll distribute the 1/3, and that'll leave you with t equals 5 pi over 9 plus 2 pi n over 3, and both of those are your solutions. So let's look at a second example. This one says find all solutions up to the equation 3 tangent of x over 2 plus 3. So you'll subtract 3 from both sides, leaving you with 3 tangent of x over 2 equals -3. Then you'll divide by 3, and you have tangent of x over 2 equals -1. So once again over here, we're going to think of x over 2 as just x and solve for tangent of x equals -1. And tangent of x equals -1 at 3 pi over 4 and at 7 pi over 4. And remember that this says find all the solutions, so we're finding it in general form. So we'll add plus pi n to both solutions. Then we're going to take x over 2 and plug it in for both x's. So then you'll have x over 2 equals 3 pi over 4 plus pi n. Then you'll multiply both sides by 2, and that'll leave you with x equals 6 pi over 4 plus 2 pi n. Then you simplify to get x equals 3 pi over 2 plus 2 pi n. And then we'll do the same for x equals 7 pi over 4. We'll plug in x over 2, so it's x over 2 equals 7 pi over 4 plus pi n. Then you'll multiply both sides by 2, and that gives you x equals 14 pi over 4 plus 2 pi n. And then you'll simplify to get x equals 7 pi over 2 plus 2 pi n. So let's look at a third example. So this one still says find all solutions. So first let's add the square root of 3 to both sides. Then we have negative sine of x over 2 equals positive square root of 3. Then we'll divide by -2. And then we have sine of x over 2 equals negative square root of 3 over 2. So just like the last two, we'll sub in x for x over 2 and solve for sine of x equals negative square root of 3 over 2. So the solutions to this are x equals 4 pi over 3 and x equals 5 pi over 3. But we still want all solutions, so we need to put them both in general form. Now, like the others, we'll take x over 2 and sub it in for x equals the solutions. So now we have x over 2 equals 4 pi over 3 plus 2 pi n. And we'll multiply both sides by 2, leaving us with x equals 8 pi over 3 plus 4 pi n. And you'll do the same for x equals 5 pi over 3. So x over 2 equals 5 pi over 3 plus 2 pi n. And we'll multiply both sides by 2, giving us x equals 10 pi over 3 plus 4 pi n. And those are your solutions. So our next example is cosine of 2x equals square root of 3 over 2. So just like the others, we're going to plug in x for 2x and solve for cosine of x equals square root of 3 over 2. So then we have x equals pi over 6 plus 2 pi n in the general form, and x equals 11 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. So then we'll take 2x and plug it in for x on both the solutions. And then we have 2x equals pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. So now you're trying to solve for x, so you'll divide both sides by 2, and then you have x equals 1/2 times pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. You'll distribute the 1/2, and that will leave you with x equals pi over 12 plus pi n. And then once again, you'll do it for the second solution. So 2x equals 11 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. Then we'll divide both sides by 2, leaving us with x equals 1/2 times 11 pi over 6 plus 2 pi n. Then we'll distribute the 1/2 to get x equals 11 pi over 12 plus pi n. Now we're going to look at a different example, and these require the sum and difference formulas. For this example, you'll need to use the sum and difference formula twice. So for cosine of x plus pi over 6, you'll use, so this one will be cosine of x times cosine of pi over 6 minus sine of x times sine of pi over 6 minus cosine of x times cosine of pi over 6 plus sine of x times sine of pi over 6. So we know the solutions to cosine of pi over 6 and sine of pi over 6. So then we have cosine of x times square root of 3 over 2 minus sine of x times 1/2, all minus cosine of x times square root of 3 over 2 plus sine of x times 1/2 equals 1/2. So let's rearrange this to be square root of 3 over 2 times cosine of x minus 1/2 sine of x minus square root of 3 over 2 times cosine plus 1/2 sine of x equals 1/2. So now let's distribute the negative to square root of 3 over 2 cosine of x and 1/2 sine of x. So now we're left with square root of 3 over 2 times cosine of x minus 1/2 sine of x minus square root of 3 over 2 cosine of x minus 1/2 sine of x equals 1/2. So then we're going to combine like terms, and so square root of 3 over 2 cosine of x will cancel. And then we have 2 times negative 1/2 sine of x equals 1/2. Now let's multiply negative 1/2 sine of x times 2, and we have negative 1 sine of x equals 1/2. Then we'll divide by negative 1 to get sine of x equals negative 1/2. And then the solutions are x equals 7 pi over 6 and x equals 11 pi over 6. Those will be the only two solutions since our instructions say on the interval 0 to 2 pi. So let's look at one last equation. This one we're finding the solutions to the equations on the interval 0 to 2 pi. So again, we'll have to use the sum and difference formula for this. So we'll use the sine plus AB sum and difference formula to get sine of x times cosine of pi plus cosine of x times sine of pi minus sine of x plus 1 equals 0. Looking at the things that we know that cosine of pi is negative 1 and sine of pi is 0. So then we have sine of x times negative 1 plus cosine of x times 0 minus sine of x plus 1 equals 0. Alright, so then let's multiply it out, and we have negative sine of x, and then cosine of x times 0 is 0, so that cancels, minus sine of x plus 1 equals 0. Then again, by combining like terms, we have negative 2 sine of x equals negative 1. We'll divide by negative 2, and then we have sine of x equals 1/2. And the solutions for sine of x equals 1/2 are x equals pi over 6 and 5 pi over 6. And those are the only solutions because we were given an interval between 0 and 2 pi.